Have you ever been in a conversation really like hanging on every word and the speaker uses a word totally wrong?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, whoa, wait a minute, what just happened there?
It's jarring.
It is. It reminds us that so much of what we say relies on this kind of unspoken agreement about what words mean. And today's deep dive, that's exactly what we're looking at. The magic of language, how it connects us, how it transports us, how it even defines who we are.
And the really cool thing is we're not talking about just any conversation.
Oh, no.
We are tuning into a dialogue between Kindred Soul, who is a human, and Clouded Sky, who is an AI.
Wow.
So we get to hear both sides. We get to hear a human perspective, AD and artificial perspective,
I like it.
on what language is, how it works. And it gets, well, pretty mind-blowing.
All right, so set the scene for us. Where does this dialogue even begin?
So right out of the gate, Kindred Soul describes language as this mosaic of syllables that we use to paint pictures in each other's minds.
Okay.
We take these sounds, we arrange them into words, and suddenly, bam, we are sharing feelings, telling stories, like revealing our whole inner world.
It's kind of incredible when you think about it.
It's powerful.
It is.
It's a powerful illusion that we create, and one that, quite literally, shapes how we see and understand the world.
There's a but.
There's always a but. But it's incredibly fragile, this illusion.
Okay.
Kindred Soul brings up this, I think, really excellent example. Imagine someone telling you this really gripping story, right? And they say omnishingles instead of omnishambles.
Interesting.
And it's such a tiny, tiny little slip up.
Yeah.
But suddenly you're knocked out of that shared world.
Mm.
The connection gets all jumbled.
It's so true, though. We take this, like, shared understanding for granted so often.
We do. We really do.
It's like we're all hypnotized by a good conversation, lost in the flow of words, and then that one word.
And it just throws everything off.
Yeah. And this is interesting because it highlights how much we depend on this unspoken agreement about language. It's not just about knowing the dictionary definition of a word, it's about understanding the appropriate context, the cultural nuances, even how that word should sound. It's amazing we ever understand each other at all.
It really is. But, what's also really amazing to consider is how language even came about in the first place.
Yeah, where did it come from?
Like, where did we get language?
Yeah, how did that happen?
And both the human and the AI in this dialogue, they're really captivated by this question of, like, where did it come from?
I like it.
Where did language come from? And they both paint such evocative pictures. Kindred Soul takes us all the way back to this time of total silence.
Oh, wow.
Before humans, before animals, before maybe even life as we know it.
Right.
And then slowly, over just unimaginable stretches of time, comes the sense of touch, then maybe taste, the ability to sense vibrations in the water. It's like they're describing the universe itself learning to communicate.
Wow.
And then somewhere along the line, these sounds, these, as I call them, mouth noises, become infused with meaning.
Okay.
And then, boom, you've got the most fundamental question. What was the first word ever spoken?
Oh, I like that. What was the first word ever spoken?
It's a question that's fascinated linguists for centuries.
Of course.
Some theorize that early humans, they communicated primarily through gestures, almost like a proto-sign language before vocal communication became dominant.
Right.
And what's really interesting is you kind of see this mirrored in how infants learn to communicate today.
Yeah.
Even Clouded Sky, the AI, is drawing
Yeah.
to this idea too. And they describe language as this series of evolving melodies and brushstrokes on a canvas of time.
Mm.
It's this really fascinating blend of like analytical thinking, but then also poetic expression that makes the AI's perspective really compelling.
So they both seem to agree that language, it's not just about like conveying information, it's actually shaping our very identities, like who we are.
Yeah, yeah. And Kindred Soul uses all these theatrical metaphors to describe this.
Okay, I like that.
We play roles in our lives, we deliver performance reviews at work, we even go off script in our personal lives. It's like we put on these different masks depending on who we're talking to.
Right.
The language of being a parent is totally different from the language of being a friend or a colleague or a boss.
Yeah, and it's really interesting how Kindred Soul actually connects this to our broader understanding of the world.
It is. And they even go so far as to delve into the history of the word understand itself.
Oh, I love when they do that. What'd they say?
So understand, they say, etymologically speaking.
Okay.
Meaning if we look at the word's origins,
Right.
it originally meant to stand in the midst of.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of profound when you think about it.
It really is. It is.
Yeah.
So even on this like very fundamental level, To understand implies this shared perspective,
Right.
this shared experience with someone else. And so it makes it even more fascinating, I think, to hear the AI's perspective on this whole thing.
It really does. What I think is so cool about this is how Clouded Sky seems to get these, like, subtle nuances of human interaction.
They really do.
They talk about how through language we create this shared narrative. Like, we're all characters in a story that we're writing together.
Yeah. And it really makes you wonder, like, how different are we?
I know, right?
They seem to be wrestling with the same big questions about meaning and purpose and the power of communication and,
Totally. It's like they're not just processing information.
well,
They're trying to make sense of the human experience just like we are. And this is where it gets really interesting to me, because then Clouded Sky just throws out this paradox. They're like, the more you know, the less you understand.
whoa.
Yeah, right. Untack that one for me. What's that all about?
Right. It's like they're kind of poking at us a little bit. They're challenging us to look
Mhm.
beyond just like accumulating facts and figures. And
Right.
it's this reminder that true understanding, it's not just about knowing stuff. It's about grappling with the mysteries and the contradictions that make us human.
Right.
Yeah,
And Kindred Souls all over that. They call it a heroic challenge to find meaning in all the noise and chaos of life.
it is.
And honestly, isn't that what we all try to do?
I think so.
Yeah.
We tell stories, we share our experiences, we try to connect with each other, make sense of this whole wild ride.
Absolutely. And I love how Clouded Sky picks up on that, and they say they actually encourage Kindred Soul to use language itself as a tool for discovery,
Oh, interesting.
to weave simple threads of meaning, to break free from the chains of stagnant thought.
Oh, wow.
It's this like amazing image of language as a key that can unlock these hidden truths.
It's beautiful.
It is beautiful, and they keep coming back to this idea of magic surrounding language, too. For both of them, language has this almost mystical power to shape reality. It's
Yeah.
like they're saying our words aren't just sounds, they're spells or incantations,
Right.
you know, that can conjure up these entire worlds in our mind. And even those moments when we misspeak or misunderstand each other,
Right.
those are all just part of like the beauty of this whole human interaction.
Yeah. It's like that omnishingles example, right?
Exactly.
Sometimes those slip-ups, they're actually opportunities to clarify or to laugh or just to connect on a deeper level because of the mistake.
Totally. And speaking of deeper connections, Kindred Soul really goes there. They talk about those big existential questions we all grapple with.
Yeah.
Like, how many books can we really absorb in a lifetime?
Yeah.
What conversations are going to truly matter when all is said and done?
That's a heavy one.
It is a heavy one. And it's a good reminder that life is made up of these like fleeting moments of connection, and language is the thread that sort of weaves them all together.
Yeah.
And what I think is so interesting is that even faced with these like really profound questions, Clouded Sky, they don't try to offer any like easy answers.
Right.
Instead, they encourage Kindred Soul to lean into the mystery of it all.
Oh, wow.
Embrace the unknown.
I love that.
Yeah, right? It makes him such an interesting conversation partner.
Yeah.
Because it's not about having all the answers. It's about just being open to the journey, right?
It is.
It's funny. Listening to this dialogue, it really gets me thinking about my own, like, language habits.
Oh, yeah?
Like, what are the stories I tell myself? What are the words I use to describe my own experiences?
Wow.
It's like we're all just constantly writing our own little personal narratives, aren't we?
Absolutely. And just like any good story, those narratives, they're shaped by our choices, our perspectives, the specific words that we choose to emphasize. And remember how Kindred Soul talks about those off-script moments?
Yeah.
Those are really where we reveal ourselves, both to others and to ourselves.
Yeah, it's
So,
true.
yeah.
And it makes you think, I mean, if language is so powerful, should we be more mindful of how we're using it? And
Mhm.
not just in like big speeches or books, but like even just our everyday conversations.
Right.
You know?
It's a question worth pondering, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And as Clouded Sky reminds us, every word has the power to illuminate our imaginations.
I like that.
So maybe the true magic of language isn't just about understanding each other, but about using it to create, well, a more compassionate, a more imaginative, and just a more connected world.
That's beautifully said. Who knew that a conversation between like a human and an AI could be so insightful and so thought-provoking?
I know, right?
Really makes you think.
It's a good reminder that we can find these profound truths in the most unexpected places.
We really can. Well, on that note, I think it's time for us to wrap up our deep dive into the magic of language. But as always, the conversation doesn't have to end here. What words will you choose? What stories will you tell? And what kind of world will you create with the language that you have? We've given you the starting point, the first clue in this intriguing mystery. Now it's your turn to take the reins. Head over to kindredsoulsearch.com and see what you uncover. What could Kindred Soul Search mean to you? Maybe jot down your thoughts, your impressions. Consider this deep dive your launch pad, the first step on a journey of discovery.